So I wanted to make this video for anybody out there feeling discouraged, feeling invisible to the world. Maybe you stumbled on this idea that you're a low value person, and somehow if you could become a quote unquote high value person, whatever that means, then all of a sudden you're going to find all that you're looking for in life. Social media and the algorithm has convinced you that somehow there's this ideal of a high value man or high value woman, and you just don't feel like you live up to it. So you go on YouTube and you try to figure out, how do I be a high value person? How do I be noticed? How do I be seen? How can I compete in this dating market, for example? So I wanted to share my personal experience with going on this journey. I thought my problems were external to me, but really they weren't. I thought that by doing all these external things that I could fix my internal problems, and that wasn't the case. 10 years ago, I was very socially anxious. I was depressed. I didn't leave my house for like 6 months, and something really had to give. So I left my parents' home. I moved countries and started this new life. I started advancing in my career, eventually started my own business, and I got to this point where I was in the top percent of income earners in the country. So I did all these things to improve myself externally. Through society's eyes, you could perceive me as a high value person, but when I looked in the mirror, I did not see a high value person. I learned that no matter how much I improve myself externally, if I'm carrying all this shame inside me and I'm carrying this deep seated sense of unworthiness and unlovability and not feeling good enough, and for some people, that's really at the root of all of this. Why do they start a self-improvement journey? Because you feel insecure about yourself. You somehow learned growing up that you weren't enough. So you try to compensate. You try to build this muscular physique if you're a guy and make all this money and get a nice haircut, wear nice clothes, have your own apartment. I was getting noticed, I was getting seen, I was attracting people, but the types of relationships I was getting they're superficial. And of course they'd be superficial because if you're chasing someone else's idea of success and you're doing all these things that you think you should do just in order to be an attractive person, then it's like you've created this armor and this mask, and of course those relationships are going to be superficial because you're not really being yourself. That's not actually fulfilling. What I actually want is connection. And in order to get connection, you don't need to be a high value person to have relationships and to have friends. It's not like having a checklist of things that you tick off and all of a sudden people want to be around you. A high value person is somebody that values themselves highly, is somebody that's secure within themselves and just fun to be around. There's this myth going around that you got to go on this whole hero's journey of improving yourself just in order to attract a mate. But that's not really the case, because look around, you'll see the everyday average person are in relationships. So why is it that you need to be this jet-setting, jacked entrepreneur just in order to attract a mate? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that lifestyle. If that's for you, by all means, go do it. But if it's not authentic to you, if it's not who you really are, then even if you do get into that lifestyle, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, then you're not going to have meaningful connections, because how can you if you're playing a character? The people that I know in my life that are in the happiest relationships have never consumed a self-help book, have never watched any self-improvement YouTube channels. There's no sense of unworthiness within them. There's no sense of, oh, I need to improve myself. And that leads me to our next point. Not all men are attracted to the same things in women, and not all women are attracted to the same things in men. So you could be slaving away at the gym trying to build this muscular, jacked physique when maybe the girl that you really want is attracted to dad bods. So we're kind of being conditioned by social media that there's this ideal that we have to live up to. We're not actually talking to each other. We're not actually in the real world talking to each other, finding out what's actually attractive. So it reminds me of the story that the psychiatrist and best-selling author Dr. Gabrante, he went to this ayahuasca ceremony in Peru. And when he got there, these shamans, they don't care about his job title. They don't care how many books he's sold. They can kind of just sense the energy, and they can just sense that all this trauma that he's holding inside him. So it's interesting. In the Western world, he'd be a highly esteemed, highly valuable person, whereas in Peru, in the jungle, he's a nobody. And what's valuable there in that context is how much peace are you holding within you? How much love and how much compassion do you have inside you? And these shamans could tell that this guy is traumatized, and they don't really care about how much money he's made or how many books he's sold. So it's kind of pointless, right? Improving yourself externally is not the answer. Then what is? The answer is to do the inner work as well as the external work. By inner work, what do I mean? I mean looking within yourself and figuring out where you learned this idea that you weren't good enough, that there was something wrong with you, that you are unlovable. These emotions, this trauma that you're carrying inside you, because if you already felt that you were good enough, there's really nothing to improve. So it's kind of like looking within you and noticing those emotions, and whatever method, speaks to you, whether it's meditation, journaling, going to therapy, being seen and expressing your shame can heal a lot of this as well. So find a community, find a safe space where you can express these things. You'll find that the more you heal yourself inside, the less you feel the need to improve yourself. And then at that point, it just becomes you can improve yourself if you want to improve yourself, not because you think you should. It's very subtle, but it's an important distinction. The frame that you approach working on yourself with. I feel like a worthy thing to strive towards is to be the best in the world at being yourself. Find out who you are and kind of go all the way. Figuring out what value means to you, what you value, and living according to that. Because if you live according to that and you value yourself, then you're naturally going to start attracting people that are on the same wavelength. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, any personal experiences of your own to share, would love to hear from you. Drop some comments below, and catch you guys next time. Peace.